trial date is now set for the suspect in the Delphi murders.
Look how old and feeble this guy, Richard Allen, looks now. Wow. Anyway, True Crime King, back. If you haven't heard by now, Richard Allen has apparently confessed 5 or 6 times, okay? So, you can stop saying that Ron Logan did this, or anybody else, right? You guys were all coming out of the woodworks, or a lot of you. But it was Richard Allen the whole time. He admitted to being there the day of, right? You can just go back and watch some of my other videos. But anyway, let's see what they got to say.
The man accused of murdering Abby Williams and Libby German will face a jury in about 6.5 months. Richard Allen was in court for nearly 5 hours today.
And our news crews were in the courtroom all day as well. That includes 13 Investigates senior reporter Bob Siegel.
He begins our live team coverage tonight from Carroll County. Bob.
So we're going to have Richard Allen's trial in a couple months. Kohberger trial in a couple months.
Well, we now know Richard Allen's trial date is set for January. Judge Fran Goll set jury selection for January 8th, 2024, and we are told to expect 3 weeks for the trial. Now, we also heard a bombshell in court today. Carroll County prosecutor Nick McLeland said that Richard Allen has made incriminating statements while he's being held in prison awaiting his trial. McLeland said Allen, and I quote, confessed 5 or 6 times to killing the girls. He didn't give any more details other than that. Allen's defense attorney told the judge the statements that were allegedly made by the defendant were generic, and he said, quote, the jury's going to hear all about that when the time is right.
They were generic? What does that even mean? He confessed 5 or 6 times. And to be honest with you, he looks like he's not going to be living too much longer either way. I mean, he just looks horrible.
So the other big news that happened in court today is actually what did not happen in court. We expected the judge to hold a suppression hearing on whether to allow ballistics evidence in the case and whether that's going to be admissible. That did not happen. According to the state, they have tests that link an unfired bullet at the crime scene to a gun found in Allen's house. The defense wants...
That's literally a smoking gun. Almost, right? I mean, that's big. That's huge. I know some of you are going to say, oh, well, that doesn't really matter. Yeah, it does, okay?
Once the evidence thrown out, saying that it's based on questionable evidence, the judge announced that she is going to hold a hearing on that at a later date. We don't know that yet. So most of today's hearing focused on another very important issue, whether Richard Allen is going to remain in a maximum security state prison or move closer here to Carroll County. Samantha Johnson was in court sitting right next to me today. She heard all the testimony. And what we heard, well, first of all, it lasted hours. And it was fascinating.
It was fascinating. And as a reminder, this all comes about because the defense is saying right now that Allen's mental and physical health is deteriorating because he's in this maximum security unit. I've had the privilege...
Good. I'm glad it's deteriorating. He killed 2 little girls. And then posed them like he did. Yeah, just horrible human being. Good. I'm glad his body's deteriorating. No sympathy from me.
Privilege of seeing Allen every time he's been in hearings yet this year.
And keep in mind, he has confessed. That's good enough for me, okay? If it's not good enough for you, sorry, you know.
And we know, apparently, according to just the conditions that we've seen over the past few months, the words I wrote down to describe him today were weak and shallow feeling, also giving off a timid expression as well. But today we know that both sides agreed that this original safekeeping order that was filed in November of last year, we know that they say that was based on potential threats. The exact words they used were speculative safety concerns. And the sheriff at the time says he was being proactive by asking that Allen be moved out of Carroll County. Witnesses today testified, though, that there was no threat at the time, nor have there been any direct threats to Richard Allen.
Now, I do want to say, I do believe that Kegan Kline or Tony Kline could be involved in some way, right? But they didn't kill him. Richard Allen killed him.
However, we did hear from the Westville warden today who said that he would be concerned for Richard Allen's safety if he were moved out of this maximum security unit. In fact, we know that we heard from another Westville worker today who said that in his 5 years of working at this prison, that Richard Allen is the only pre-trial inmate they've ever had in this segregation maximum security unit. So the defense today is arguing that this is all about equal protection. They told us in court today that their goal is really to come up with a solution to get better access to Allen, to help him prepare for this defense. They even offered other options potentially to house Allen. We know Cass County was one of the counties being mentioned. We heard from their sheriff today. Hours of back and forth debate on this. And then, of course, Judge Gohl deciding that she was going to take both sides of this argument under advisement. No decision today, but of course, we do expect more in the coming days or coming weeks.
And a lot of what we heard in court today focused on Richard Allen's poor health.
Yeah.
And so we certainly want to explain more about that. And coming up at 5:30, we're going to explain why Richard Allen is now under video surveillance 24 hours a day. That came out in court today.
Well, there's no need to wait, right? He's on suicide watch, obviously. He knows the rest of his life is most likely going to be spent in a jail cell, and his life's over, at least on this planet, right? He committed the worst crime you could possibly commit. And like I said before, I have no sympathy at all. At all. Let me reiterate that, at all. Let me know what you guys think. But I don't want to hear anything else about Ron Logan. Okay? True Crime King, out.